Hi YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about blood. So, what is blood? Well, it's the fluid that keeps everyone alive, uh, like literally. Without blood, our bodies would not operate properly. If I would put it in an example, I would relate it to video games. Blood is usually used as an indicator of being damaged or your health bar would be lowered. Games such as Elden Ring, well, maybe not the best example, but when healing your character, you would drink a Crimson of Tears to heal. Or yet, the upcoming Battlefield 6, where it shows in the trailer a soldier injecting something onto the wounded soldier. So, with these examples, what am I pointing towards to? Well, is that our health is heavily relying on our blood supply. But how exactly do you heal yourself? If blood is such an important thing in our lives, how do you properly place it into your body? Well, obviously, you can't just drink blood. Or yet, if you inject it, where would you place the needle? As a gamer myself, oh my god, that is so cringe. I want to know how exactly blood works in our body. Before I talk about the specifics and mechanics on how blood works, we first need to look back on the history. And honestly, uh, the highlights or the history of blood, I find it really funny and embarrassing. Although it is interesting in the perspective of how we were able to get from that one point until now. So, in the modern times, we store blood in bags. Now, these bags are special for containing those blood, which can be found in hospitals, specifically in blood banks. This is a section or room where it specializes in blood typing, cross matching, transfusing of blood to patients in hospitals. However, the history of blood banking is quite, again, embarrassing. Before, blood was seen as a cultural practice, such as Torabullium, where people would cover themselves with blood to seek spiritual rebirth, and they would like dunk buckets of blood into a pit, which is cool for me, but at the same time, disgusting. The Egyptians also used to bathe in blood to rejuvenate themselves. Uh, there was times when Roman gladiators would drink blood to transmit vitality, where they thought that if they drank their enemy's blood, they gained a little bit of a boost. However, the first evidence of an attempt to use blood as a source of healing was by Pope Innocent VII, where there were three men that gave their blood to the Pope, and all four died. Which is interesting because it indicates that not all blood can be placed in a person, but more on that later. In the 17th century, there was another person named Richard Lauer who did animal to animal transfusion using dogs? But that was a weird time, actually. Uh, Jean Baptiste Denis also tried to conduct animal to man transfusion, where he used sheep blood. But all of these attempts of using animals, eventually the patient died. So they used all of these experiments, but they didn't really get so much, or there wasn't really much progress. Although, after two more centuries, in the 19th century, there was better progress in dealing with blood transfusion. James Blundell was the first person to successfully transfuse to a woman, and in my opinion started the interest in blood or studies in blood. However, towards the end of the 19th century, Karl Landsteiner, one of our greatest, the GOAT in blood banking, proposed the concept of ABO blood groups. This is where he proposed that blood cells are classified into different types and not all blood types are compatible from each other. So, before we move on to the mechanics and structures of the RBC, there were some instruments that were invented that helped transfusing blood. So, the first was the cannula, which was made by Edward E. Lindemann, which did vein to vein transfusion, but was not really efficient and really time consuming. Uh, Another invention, the Unger, which used a syringe valve apparatus and did not need any physician assistance. Or, in other words, it was actually automatic in collecting blood. Uh, there was also the Blundel's impeller, which focused on capillary blood. And the other another invention of his was the gravitator, which used gravity to conduct human to human transfusion. So I just want to like quickly tackle what capillary blood is. Capillary blood is usually found on your fingers or at the uh, tips or at the ends of your blood vessels, to put it simply. And these are collected for blood typing and cross matching. So you might be wondering, okay, there's a lot of devices, but why not store it instead? Well, back then, there wasn't any preservatives for blood. Not until 1869, where Braxton Hicks used sodium phosphate as an anticoagulant. The problem with this was it was too toxic to the patient when transfused, but showed promising results of preservation. After years passed, in 1914, Houston used sodium citrate and was a great alternative to sodium phosphate, but it was still toxic to the human body. So Lewison then determined what was the minimum amount of citrate before it became toxic. And for 2 years of trying different substances, Roos and Turner was able to notice that the inclusion of dextrose, also known as glucose, and sodium citrate significantly increased the preservation of blood. And this became really exciting in the medical field. But the downside is that when blood is stored, the glucose levels decrease as time passes. And this still occurs until today. Um, but after this discovery in 1957, Gibson discovered that adding phosphate with sodium citrate and glucose prolonged the shelf life of blood. I could not stress this out, but anticoagulants is very important in blood banking because we do not want to transfuse blood. And also, it was a big problem back then, wherein when a doctor would transfuse blood to a patient, the blood would instantly clot. Hence, that's why there are human to human transfusing devices. So, with anticoagulants, we wouldn't worry too much on the blood clotting, especially within the patient's system. Because if there was a clot within the vascular system, that patient would probably die because there would be no nutrients or oxygen passing through the different parts of their body. Now, I'm gonna stop the video here. And the next video on blood banking, I'll be talking about antigens and antibodies. In conclusion to the history, there was a lot of trial and error, and thankfully, I live in a time where those errors are mitigated already, and there's like science. And I think the process of discovering how to preserve blood and how to transfuse blood, and to know how it works in, like, there are different types, there are um different DNA strands that would produce uh different kinds of red blood cells. It's very interesting. I don't think it was DNA strands. I'm so sorry, but um, the proteins and how, like, the red blood cells develop, that really excites me, cause this is happening well before you are born. You know, it's developing as your bones are forming, and it's like knowing what is happening before you have literally life. And now knowing that with modern medicine, we're able to prevent all of those complications that were faced before. Anyways, this was Corn Meds. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.